Some interesting news here in the AI world. Of course, it feels like every day there's some sort of breaking news. When I was growing up, sports was the thing. You would always watch sports. Now it feels like artificial intelligence and just the tech space in general has almost taken over mainstream culture, which is wild. Would have never imagined that happening in a million years. But with that said, let's go ahead and get into today's news. So it's been reported that Apple is strongly considering partnering with Google and integrating Gemini into Siri and into the iPhones. Now, I have a lot of thoughts on this. But first and foremost, we need to talk about Apple and their AI. I think we can all agree they've dropped the ball hard. And I don't know why that is. They came out with a paper a couple months ago saying basically these LLMs are not that smart. They don't actually reason, and there's a very clear ceiling on them. And so I don't know if that's cope or if they actually, maybe they know something that no one else does, and there is a wall, and there's not going to be much forward progress or development from this point forward. I don't really think that's the case, but I suppose it's possible. Now, with that said, Steve Jobs is rolling in his grave. I mean, there's 0% chance Steve Jobs would not have innovated hard. He was talking about artificial intelligence 20 and 30 years ago. But nonetheless, I find it very interesting Apple is considering partnering with Google because, it was a big deal when Google made a partnership with Apple to basically be the flagship search engine on the iPhone. They paid him a lot of money, still do, I believe, and it's looking like they want to do the same thing with Gemini. So it makes sense, obviously, from Google's perspective. I mean, Gemini gets instant access to hundreds of millions of users across the world. But what's interesting is why Gemini versus ChatGPT versus Grok versus your own LLM. And according to reports, Apple has actually been doing what they're calling an internal bake-off. So they're evaluating multiple models inside their company, and they're evaluating Gemini, Grok, Claude from Anthropic, and I guess they're testing to see, what works best with the iPhone and ultimately with iOS, because that's the real bread and butter of Apple. And so they're trying to decide what is going to power Siri's next generation. And it's really interesting. And so reports are starting to come out. It's looking like it could be Gemini. This would be a big blow, in my opinion, to all of the other frontier LLM labs because that's going to instantly give Gemini an insane amount of, there's a couple things, right? Because not only is Gemini going to get access to customers, but I would assume there's going to be a way for Google to train their models on all of the data they're getting. And as we know, artificial intelligence is all about the data. ChatGPT has a pretty good advantage because they have 700 million users. Google obviously has billions of users. So when you're thinking about data, I mean, this is a massive win for Google and for Gemini. Sundar, one of the co-founders of Google, he was recently asked about it, and he sounded very excited and very upbeat. The way that he said it to me sounded like he was thinking it might be integrated into iOS 19 in the new iPhone release. That would be crazy. We know that Sundar and Tim Cook, they have a good relationship. They go way back, obviously. And to me, the Gemini models are fantastic. So I think this is a pretty big win for consumers all the way around. And really, at the end of the day, all of these LLM advancements, they're all wins for consumers because we have a lot of competition in the market, and competition is good for us. If there was a monopoly, we'd be getting screwed on prices. It'd be crazy expensive, but we don't. So we're very blessed and we're very, very lucky. Now, it sounds like Siri's AI integrations and upgrades are delayed a little bit into 2026. Who knows if that's early 26, if that's September for the next iPhone release, but those have definitely been pushed back and delayed. And no one uses Siri. It's the worst product in the history of the world. So there's really no reason in rolling out an update unless it has AI baked into it. Think about how useful it would be to Siri if I could just say, hey, Siri, can you go find, I'll give you an example. In my house, I'm replacing the screens in all of my windows. And I have to get measurements, and then I have to find screens that actually fit, and it's a huge pain. If I could just say, hey, Siri, go to my notes, check the measurements that I have saved there, and then go find screens for me that will fit, and then put them in my cart. That would be tremendous. And, we're seeing that get tapped into with tools like Manus or ChatGPT Agent. But if it was actually integrated into the iPhone, to me, that would be a massive competitive advantage. So I think as consumers, we're all frustrated with Apple. Investors are reportedly very frustrated with Apple. And this could be a really big play for them to kind of update everything about what's going on at Apple. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of the rumors were Apple was going to buy Anthropic. That seemed to be the main choice for them to buy and to purchase. I don't know if that was just a rumor, if there was some truth to that, but now it's looking like Gemini is going to be the big dog coming into iOS. To me, it just is weird because why would Apple want to integrate their biggest rival into their product? I just don't. It doesn't really make sense to me. However, the markets loved it. Apple stock rose, Google stock rose significantly upon these reportings. So it sounds like there's a lot of substance to it. And I think we can all agree that we are looking forward to a Siri transformation. I don't care what you put in it. I don't care if you put DeepSeek in it. The CCP gets all my information. Okay, don't do that. But at the end of the day, I just want something that actually works. And I think we all feel that way. So excited to see what's next on the AI front with Apple. It's looking like Gemini is going to take the cake, but I'm curious, what do you think? Like, is this good? Is this bad? Would you prefer it to be ChatGPT or another model? Let me know in the comments. And yeah, let's see what happens.